to it.
Yeah. And we are live, guys. Starting a little early, I know, but I figured we were already on here. So Clemson game just got done. Of course, they ended up winning. It was kind of a sloppy game on both sides. There was a lot of penalties and everything. If you guys follow football, we got Blue Shirt Buddha, of course, in here. We got Six Killer. What's going on, guys? How's your day going, Clyve?
Pretty good, actually. Well, actually, slight disappointment. Went to the office for a little bit. My office still has no power. They're having to bring an electrician in. Apparently the storm did a little damage inside the building, and waiting for a couple of intakes, and neither one showed up this morning. So,
Okay.
on the other hand, it's like sunny and 70 degrees, so it's perfect weather today.
Nice. It's down to like the 60s here, but it's chilly. It's like perfect. Yeah. Almost here, at least to me. And we got Urban Country and then the Design Atelier. We got Jason here. But today's topic, the segueing to today's topic is, it's almost kind of a prelude to ID Guy's live stream that he's going to be doing here in a little bit. I wanted to get one in before he got on, but because I'll be gone later tonight, so I won't be able to do it later. But I just wanted to talk binge watches for a little bit, because I know that's one that I haven't really covered a lot, and I don't really have a lot of experience with until recently. Like, most of my experience has been kind of negative, really, I guess, because I bought, which I didn't know what I was looking for on eBay before either. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to go over too. And I know, Clyve, here, you've had a lot of experience with vintage watches, right?
Well, okay. Are we going to talk about vintage preludes?
Some of the preludes are vintage. We're talking about the 25-year rule now. You can get a lot of the JDM cars you can get imported now under the 25-year rule.
Yeah, we're also talking about Supra, but geez, a 25-year-old Supra.
They're going crazy.
I'd have to sell some watches for one of those suckers.
The R34 Skylines now, they're starting to get in that category, and those things are getting ridiculous prices.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is also about vintage, you've got online vintage, but I actually think the best shopping around for a lot of people is just in real life.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking pawn shops. We're talking thrift stores. We're talking vintage stores, antique stores. A lot of times, watch repairs or watchsmiths will have some used pieces that have been probably sitting around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace.
Where have you had the best luck at, like, as far as finding like decent deals? Which I know probably from city to city and everything, it probably varies, right?
Watchsmiths.
Really?
Yeah. Because a lot of times a watchsmith, someone will find a watch or something, bring it to a watchsmith if it's not running or not working right. And, they might be quoted, well, it might be a couple $100 to have this done. And half the time they're like, screw it, keep it then.
Yeah. That's crazy though. Like I said, some of my experience before had been bad, but I didn't really know where to look at them either. Where to look for them, because I bought them off of eBay. I didn't really know what I was looking for or looking at. And then my first real good experience has been with of course, I hate to bring it up again, but the 1505. But that's only because I knew the seller and I knew, the reputation of where to get it. That's one way to get it online. Like, if you know the seller or the reputation's pretty good.
And you kind of
some other ways.
You kind of took the words out of my mouth. Well, and sometimes Facebook. If there's we have a local group here on Facebook. I'm not going to say what the group is because we want to kind of keep it local, just to people in whatever states. But sometimes we'll sell look at other collectors, look at their own collections. Some people want to consolidate, and other people bring up something. As a matter of fact, the Leisure Chronograph, I was sitting there, and someone said something like, "Hey, I saw this, man. That looks interesting. One of us needs to snatch it up." I think, Brad, I think you're right, and I think it's going to be me.
Nice. And you got that at a pretty good deal too, didn't you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I was just thinking this is the first gen Orange Monster here. I don't know the exact year these were produced, but this may be going up on minis as well, or coming up to be a minis watch.
Right. Now, the design Atier, what's he talking? He's been a little sidebar discussion.
Yeah.
Just sends a quick concept. Oh, state auctions, pawn shops. I got my Speedy Mark II in a pawn shop. Yeah.
Yeah. He said $350. That's a great deal.
Oh, you suck. That's a super.
Yeah, he seems to find those deals down there.
Yeah,
You got a sub at a great deal too, didn't you?
I think it's Speedy for a great deal.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a steal like 350 on the mark. No, design Atier. Is he the one in like the Caribbean or something?
Yeah, he's in Aruba.
Aruba, Jamaica. I wanted to. Okay, sorry.
Beach Boys.
Exactly. Kokomo. Yeah, but places like that, and the reason why he can get a good deal on that is that if that pawn shop had advertised its contents on the internet, just even within Aruba, it would have probably been snatched up at that price.
Mm-hmm. Chances are the pawn shop probably doesn't advertise, though.
Yeah, most people don't. A lot of pawn shops don't.
And then he's saying in Caraco, they had no clue what the Mark II was. And see, your gain is their loss.
Well, yeah, because there is whenever two people meet, it's always a contest. It's you versus them. And you always want to be the one that has more. You always want to be the one that knows more about the watch than the other person, if possible. Because that a lot of times the one with the most knowledge is the one that comes out better.
Yeah, that's where like research, just like everything else in the hobby, research is key, right?
Exactly.
Because like I said, I've done more research onto the Rolex I got. And I told you, I think I found out, and I'm pretty sure it's a 1505, because the 1505s were two-tone, and he thought it was a 1500. And there's like a few key differences on there. Like I was looking, I think it was you ever heard of millenary watches or whatever, millennial, something like that. I found an article on the 1500 series where it was going over like all the differences and all that. And I didn't know that before I actually got it. That was after I got it in. That it was, that I found out it was a 1505.
And sometimes, there's a lot of variation, and Rolex didn't always did a good job of documenting it. So,
and that series is actually like some of the last. Wouldn't you say that's like some of the last affordable Rolexes? I guess, quote unquote, affordable Rolexes. Exactly.
Still is, because, and here's also why. 36 millimeters is too small for a watch. And anything under 36 millimeters is unwearable for a person.
And I mean, you see, like I said, and that one's actually 34, and that fits me just fine. I don't know if it's got, because it's got like the cushion case, I think.
Well, it does look ridiculous. It does look ridiculously tiny on you. It makes you look like a ladyboy. No, it doesn't.
No, it's actually considered a men's size, though. And the thing is, I like it because they're really versatile too. Because, like I said, I mean, of course, some people are saying yay and some people are saying nay on the NATOs, but I think it looks decent on the NATOs.
Well, yeah, I noticed the middle stripe on the NATO really matches the champagne dot. Nice job.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, kind of dress it down. Plus, I was thinking about getting. I need to get like a nice little like a Halloween strap or something for it. You know what I mean, like a leather one.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean that's what one of the ways. Like I said, when you get into like the vintage talk, because I feel like if you know what you're looking for, now would you recommend a beginning collector getting into vintage, or if they're going to get just into vintage, or would you recommend somebody like me that's been around a little longer? I kind of know what I'm looking for now. Get into them.
Let me put it this way. I would recommend, if you're going to start out with vintage, the first thing to do is to.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
You guys, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you.
I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. I think my internet went out for a minute there. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. But did you get my last sentence there?
Yeah. But however, what I would recommend to start off is get familiar with the Wattsmith.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good idea to have. It's a good idea to know one anyway, but kind of get to know all the watch. If you're in a small town or a small city and there's like 2 or 3 watch repair places, get familiar with all of them. Get to know them all.
Okay.
Number one, it's a good place. It's a good place to have repairs done locally. You can also do some shopping because usually those guys will come across. Some of them might be selling some vintage watches. Again, it's just like, okay, we've got your watch ready, and here's the bill. What? Screw you! I ain't gonna pay that. And they keep the watch.
Yeah, and then they may come across deals where they actually do. They buy them off of eBay, like broken ones that aren't working. They may fix them themselves too and sell them, right?
Or they might have people that bring them in to fix them and say that they're wanting to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And so people, people are wondering. The deal with the 321 is Clifton from Clifton's Watch Hospital told me about that one.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So Clifton did me a hell of a solid.
And there's actually some really good deals on some like higher end pieces that you can find too, right? Besides just like Rolex.
Yeah, actually.
Like JLC, you can find some really good deals on JLC, can't you?
Yeah, or just a vintage Lacutra.
Mm-hmm.
Or just anything. I mean, right now, I kind of think, I was kind of influenced by when Theo and Harris, when Christian basically said, any sort of vintage Swiss mechanical chronograph, especially if it's oversized, like 36 and above, 36 millimeters and over, if you can find for a good price.
Design Atelier is saying eBay is a good place if you're okay with Franken watches. You do need to have some knowledge of how much legit pieces go for. And that's the bad thing about eBay. There is like a lot of Franken watches too, though.
Well, okay, now I'll even back up. I think there's a lot of Franken watches out there in vintage. Just in general. And it's not scammers.
Yeah.
It's not people that are trying to pull a fast one. It's just by the standards of the day.
They just don't know. They don't have the general knowledge, right?
No, it's the standards of the day. Because before these watches were seen as like luxury items, they were tools. So a lot of times, if you had a problem, you took, you had a chronograph or a diving watch. You were having a problem with it. You took it to your local watchsmith, and your local watchsmith said, "Well, the second hand needs to be replaced. It's stripped. It's not going to move. It's I don't have anything for this. I don't have anything from this. I've got another second hand here that'll fit perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, it's a better made hand. It looks better. I can use that to replace it." And usually it's like, yeah, okay, cool, great.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're going to be paying top dollar as a potential collectible, is when you need to be careful about that.
Uh-huh. And
Because,
Peter C said he doesn't. He brought up a good point. He said he doesn't like buying or selling expensive watches on eBay. A lot less than $100 watches on there.
yeah, on eBay, I think it's possible for a seller to possibly get snaked, but if he really doesn't know what's going on, for a buyer too, but a seller might just get outright screwed. Screwed, blued, or tattooed.
Yeah. Peter's actually the one. He sent me in this. This is actually, I'll do a video for it. I showed you earlier before we went live, but he sent this in. This, I guess you would consider it vintage now because he said he believes it's from the 90s. And that's another stage way too. Like I said, anything pretty much 25 years and older is considered vintage. Just the vintage Timex Q, and it looks almost like mint.
Yep.
And of course, they're doing the re-editions of that are real popular now. I have the Pepsi, and then they also have, I think the one that they have now that's closer to this is what the Falcon, I think it's called.
Right.
It's blue dial.
And I'm trying to think. In the little differences, can be important. Like I think Houdinki did something, and it was a Bulova diving chronograph from the 70s.
Yeah. The 666 the Devil Diver.
Yeah. And everything was pristine, box and papers. It really hadn't been touched. It was a safe wing.
Mm-hmm.
And literally asking a couple of thousand. I mean, they're asking thousands for it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, one you find on eBay, it could be something to where, well, see, I had one, and basically the watchman said, okay, well, it's not, found one locally, and the watchman said, well, okay, that's not a Bulova seconds hand, that's Accutron. But Accutron was a subset of Bulova, and a lot of times people, the Accutron second hands were better than the ones Bulova. So when their Bulova second hands worn out, they usually replaced them with Accutrons.
Okay.
So, and this is where prices and expectations are important. So if you find a watch like that, like the Bulova, and you're spending $400 or $500 for it, and you've got all the looks, you've got all the charm, and you're buying it to wear it because you enjoy wearing it, that's a good deal. If on the other hand, if you're thinking, ha ha ha, screw you, Houdinki, I'll get the same thing for cheaper, and then I'll sell it mine for like thousands of dollars. Maybe.
And then Jason's talking about the Pogue. The Pogue is another real popular one too. And those depends on what you get too, is whether it's a Franken or not as well. The Seiko Pogue.
Oh, well, okay, I've got a Pogue.
Do you?
What? No, the Pogue was originally from the 70s, dude.
Mm-hmm.
But what's nice about the Seiko community? The Seiko community is a lot more open, and they're a lot more forgiving than other vintage watch communities. And of course, yellow dial with a Pepsi bezel.
Uh-huh.
That is known as the illicit astronaut watch that Colonel Pogue took with him onto Skylab and wore up in space and used as a beater in space for months on end.
Okay.
On the other hand, if it's just in general a 6139, most Seiko people look at it and just say, it's a 6139 from the 70s. It's a Pogue. It doesn't have to be yellow dial with this. It could be a blue dial with a different color combination, and they still consider it within the ranks, which is kind of nice.
And then CLO27 saying he bought his. I think they're talking about the Pogue as well. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, guys, but he bought his that really never, it's from somebody that never really wore it. It was his dresser for 30 years for $250. That's not that bad.
Yeah, I think I got mine for 3 or 4.
That's not bad at all, because all the prices are starting to go up on them now, right?
Oh, Jesus, are you kidding?
What are the prices now? I haven't really looked too much lately.
First automatic Japanese Pepsi bezel.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Now, you see, I tend to be a little bit the cuntier ones. Everyone I've seen referred to as this bug was a yellow dial, so.
Okay, Jason's saying now they're about 600 plus, which is crazy. I remember, what was it about? Even just 5 years ago, you used to be able to get like the Seamasters for pretty cheap, like $300, $400, wasn't it?
Yeah, for the older ones.
For like the 50s and 60s ones, but now people are scooping those up left and right, and they're going for what, close to $1,000 now or more?
Yeah, and the thing, well, and I kind of think it's the same thing. I kind of think it's the same way for the chronographs as well. I think they're starting to go up in price. Because keep in mind, I picked up that Lejour cigarette hands 3 register with a Valjoux 627 or 726 movement for like a little over 1,000 or like 1,100. But not too long ago, Speedmasters were going for that price.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's that vintage is going up just because everything else is getting more expensive and more people are looking at vintage now?
Yeah, I think it is.
Because that's the one way I kind of look at people can get into Rolex too, because a lot of times like Rolex isn't available now. But if you know what you're looking for in vintage, you can actually find decent deals every once in a while. You got to search for them, but you can find decent deals every once in a while, right?
Yes. Clyve, long time. What the hell's
long time first snuggle told me he's the one. He lent me in that marathon I reviewed a little bit back. He's a cool guy.
Okay, you see is that the what is it, fabric softener bear?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Jason's saying the thing about this chrono is just super reliable. Everything still works, and the first thing is it's older than him. It's true.
Yep.
And that's the thing. They don't make them like they used to, too. Just like with cars, They don't make the watches like they used to either.
No, I don't have a Hamilton W10. Legitimate ratio with broad arrow dial. I'll have to keep a lookout for that.
Now, was that that was the actual the field watch from back in the day, right? That they used in Vietnam or in pre-Vietnam.
That's what. Yeah. Exactly. I have an A10, which is World War II, and the one I had was a Bulova from 1943. The special thing about that is that back in the day, those A10s were just basically plated base metal, like brass or whatever.
Yeah.
With chrome plating, and the one I had was for 6 months in 1943, Bulova, for a reason no one really knows about, got a hair up its ass and started making its cases out of solid silver cases, and then stopped, went back to the plated.
Now, Hamilton is another good brand to look out for, right? There's still decent buys in Hamilton, right? Vintage.
Yeah, for vintage, yeah. And I think it's just a matter. I think it's a matter of perspective. If you come across like a vintage Swiss watch, and if you just like the dial, you get it for like someone reputable for like $300, $400, $500, even $600, depending on the complications. I think that's a good deal.
Yeah. Man, Urban Country saying that Vinny's Rolex bubble back has shot up too.
The what?
He's saying that the vintage Rolex bubble backs have shot up too. Which I've never really been a big fan of those. What about you?
Well, I've got like semi-bubble back 6546, so I enjoy that one. That's the oldie goldie is what I call it.
And then Urban Country's asking the Pioneer, a good alternative. I'm not sure on that one. Do you know that one, Clyve?
I'd have to look it up.
I'm not sure on that one either.
Good.
But Orange Hand's saying they just reissued the W10. They call it the Pilot Pioneer. Okay. The originals can be had for the same price as the reissue. That's crazy, though.
Yes. Yeah, because that was one of the things I made a live stream and they're talking about a reissue. And I was thinking, well, guys, if you go out there and look in real life, you can find the originals for about the same money, some cases even less.
Yeah.
So I sent for a reissue. And that was basically, that was actually seen as me throwing cold waters on everyone's homage parade.
Yeah. Yeah, like the only upside on the reissue is I think that the reissues, if you do something to it, whatever, you don't really have to worry about it too much. Like they're probably a little bit more durable, would you say, maybe?
Yeah.
Than the older ones?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly easier to service and find parts for. And Urban Country, and go to Urban Country's last comment.
Yeah.
Again, to reiterate, don't end your search with a watchsmith. Start your vintage search with a watch or someone that does repairs in your area.
Now, what about Chrono 24? Would you recommend them, or would you just recommend them as like a scale to look, just for like a price guide kind of?
Well, I think if you get Chrono when you're only 24, it doesn't hit you as bad as like winning like your 50s or 60s, I think. Oh, wait, you mean Chrono 24?
Would you recommend there, or just using them as like a scale?
I'd say using them as a scale, and also using Watch Recon or something along those lines.
Okay. Just to see what a decent price can be had for, huh?
See what used resale is going for. Yeah.
And then Peter C brings up a good comment. He said these babies of vintage reissue not so much. That is one thing. Like a lot of the vintage, like I wouldn't take a vintage even if it is like a diver or something. I don't think I'd take a vintage out swimming in the pool or at the beach or anywhere.
The only watch that I would venture out in the pool with is an Apple Watch, frankly. Anything above that, no.
I'd take my G-Shock.
Exactly. And like I said, in some of those, but also, Peter, it depends on kind of the condition of the watch and what you want to do with it. But if those vintage watches weren't tough, they all didn't sit in desk drawers for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
And then Urban Country said he's on the lookout for one. He lives in the outskirts of Manchester, which is a little town where the only watchsmith closed down a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about here at the beach. I haven't been able to find one. Now, I don't know if I go out to Conway or possibly like Loris, although out further, I don't know if you probably don't know the beach area that well. But like Conway, like Loris out in the country a little bit, like past the beach, I might be able to find one maybe out that way. And then Bruce is saying he loves his 1943 Elgin A11. And Elgin's another good buy that a lot of people don't know about too.
Exactly. Or just any A11. And the only difference between his and mine, well, there's a couple. Number one, you could tell by looking on the back because they'll have different manufacturers. They couldn't put anything on the front. Everything on the front was very much in accordance with the War Department specifications. His is plated base metal. Mine is a silver. That's why I wanted the 43 Bulova. And then finally, I think Bulova used a Swiss design that they were producing under contract from Switzerland. So the Bulova may have been a little more may have been a little bit more of a higher movement.
Which I have noticed, like Bulova is one of those brands. They're starting to do a lot of reissues lately, aren't they?
Bulova, the unofficial watch of you know who. So yeah, Bulova.
Didn't they just do I think we were just talking about that. I think they just did a reissue, right, of their field watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, yeah, but so it's all very much dependent. It's here's also. Oh my God! I literally have a box of vintage chronographs I could go through.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'd do things like pick up a vintage triple date moon face for $500 or $600.
That's not bad.
No,
not for a decent brand name chrono, anyways. Now, what are some of the more like the rarer brands, like a lot of people probably hadn't heard of that you can think of? Because I know there's like a lot of now defunct brands.
Angelus being one.
Angelus, okay.
BWC is one.
Okay.
Hold on.
But yeah,
sorry.
You good?
Yeah. As long as it has Swiss somewhere on the dial.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's actually a lot of bright, like if you guys are, one thing I have noticed about like the different brands, if you're worried about the smaller sizes, Breitling actually used to make decently oversized watches. They've always had a history of making a little bit bigger than everybody else, right?
Because of their emphasis on aviation.
True.
Because if you're a pilot, if you're holding your hand up, squinting at a teeny ass little dial for an extended amount of period, you might crash.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I was gonna say though is like if you're worried about the smaller size, Advantage, Bulova is another brand, and their prices still aren't really bad yet, are they?
Yeah,
on a lot of them, like the top timer and everything.
Yep, top timer.
And speaking of, I think that was in one of the Bond movies. Did you hear Sean Connery passed away today, by the way?
I heard about that.
May he rest in peace. Probably the best Bond ever.
May he rest in peace. I think he was the original, probably the best James Bond, and he knew how to slap a bitch.
Probably the best James Bond ever. Probably the most modern, the best modern Bond will probably be the current one. I think Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
But as far as like all the best Bond ever, I'd say Sean Connery for sure. But all right, sorry to go off topic there. But
hey, Ken, wait a minute. Hey, Ken Spear, that name sounds familiar. Ken, did you go to Washington and Jefferson?
He's always checking in from Pittsburgh. But Urban Country is saying
it's probably his kid or grandkid, if I'm thinking of. Now,
Urban Country has said the Bulova Sinatra reissue looks decent. I think George, my buddy George, that you've been on a couple live streams with, I think he wants to pick that one up.
Now go back down to Orange Hands.
Right here?
Yeah. And here's one. I think that's the important thing. Houdenki, Fratello, Watson's, Fritz, and Bucher, and a bunch of other heavyweights are getting into vintage. Prices are going through the roof. And again, okay, now if those watches have always been out there. Those vintage watches have always been cool. I mean, you've been around for a little bit and you know what your tastes are. If it's, it's like, for me, it's just like, this is like a funky old chronograph. It's Swiss. It appears to be in good condition. The seller's reputable. That's a couple of $100. Well, hell, why not?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's one way for like a lot of people that are like on a budget like myself, like, I'm usually on a budget, but that's one way for a lot of people to get like a nicer like name brand, like a Breitling or even like a Rolex or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, and some of those, and again, and I've got now, of course, if my watchsmith ever dies, which he probably only, which might be a possibility in the next 10, 15 years, but until then, I'm pretty much good. Maybe, and also, but the backup is the watch wife over in El Reno.
Okay.
She loves vintage Seiko, and she's pretty easy on the eyes too, if you know what I'm talking about.
Nice.
I said, one of the things I was telling her is like, all you'd have to do is start a YouTube channel and basically just talk to the process when you're repairing a watch. And at the beginning and ending of the video, or occasionally look into the camera. I said you would have a YouTube watch channel like that.
Definitely. Definitely. Peter C saying Elgin, Bulova, Ben Russ, Hamilton are all great old U.S. brands. That's true.
But if you've been around for a watch, if you know what you like, and some people will be like, oh, I don't know what some people are guided by fear. Some people are guided by, they're treating it as investment watches.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, Ken. Actually, Mancini's bread over in McKee's. You're talking McKee's Rocks. Good friend of mine I went to class with. Every once in a while, we'd have to go into the Rocks and get a fresh loaf of Mancini's bread.
Nice.
He would also tell stories about what young men would do with a hot, fresh loaf of Mancini's bread when they're growing up, but I will not repeat them there. He's now, especially since Colonel Fennell is now retired. Colonel Fennell is now a reputable member of his community. But I can tell you some the stuff we did in under.
That's crazy. Where did you go to school at up there, Clyve?
Washington and Jefferson College.
Okay. Is that like around Pittsburgh area?
Yeah, it's in Washpa, Washington, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
30, 35 miles southwest of Pittsburgh.
My old roommate's from there. He actually moved back there to Washington, PA.
Washpa? No shit. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the Powell's last name. Is his last name. I don't know if you knew his dad or anything like that.
Possibly. I graduated in 90.
Okay. You probably made a lot of trips to Three Rivers too then.
So my undergrad degree is now vintage. Yep.
But yeah, that's pretty cool though. Peter C's saying he loves watches. He loves 60s watches. He grew up in the 60s. And Ken's saying he found several watches from the 60s recently while cleaning out his parents' house. Nice.
Yeah. And keep in mind though, there's just like today, there are watches that are being released today. Ones that make you say, ooh, like, man, I really like that. And other ones like, indifferent. Yeah. What I'd say is if you're looking for a vintage watch, the first thing you should pay attention to is your pulse. Does it make your heart beat quicker?
Definitely.
Do you find yourself does the watch draw out some sort of emotional reaction from you? That's where you start, but that's certainly not where you end. Yeah.
And you still think the best places for a lot of people to go is like a lot of like pawn shops and stuff like that, huh?
Yeah, resell. Facebook. Well, and let's not look at. Watch collecting groups. Mm-hmm. Facebook Market. Facebook Marketplace.
And the watch crowd can be kind of a harsh crowd, but the one good thing about the watch crowd is if somebody makes a shadowy deal or somebody gets screwed on a deal or whatever, they're going to call that person out. So a lot of times you're dealing with decent people. Not saying 100% of the time, but a lot of times it's people that have been around for a little bit, right?
Well, people that have a reputation and want to protect it.
Yeah. That's one thing I can say about the watch crowd. If you are like the shadowy dealer or whatever, then they'll call you out in no time.
Exactly. Oh man, I would love some Mancini. You suck, man. Can I want some Mancini's bread now? God.
Man.
But I think there's a lot of good stuff out there. It's almost like the last frontier.
Mm-hmm.
But follow your heart, but do your homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, like research is key, right?
Research, and of course, again, I have to emphasize this: you don't end with a watchsmith; you start with a watchsmith.
Yeah. And then that's one thing the internet is good for. Like you can find all kind of different articles. Like I found the information out on my 1505 that I didn't know about. You just gotta make sure it's a credible source. You can't just use was it Wikipedia?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, Wikipedia can be good starting points. Did anyone else lose Clyde's video?
Was it mine?
No. Oh, Chris's video. Okay.
You could still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Maybe earlier. I don't know. Or maybe he's talking because I went to my avatar instead.
Yeah. But the funny part, there's different classes of collectors. And some collectors, as a watch goes up in price, different sort of collectors will be interested in the watch and then fall out of interest on the watch.
Yeah. And a lot of people look at him to flip him too, though.
Yeah.
And that's the bad thing.
Well, as they go up, as they go up the food chain.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of times, and the Hodinkee effect.
Yeah.
Or Fratello watches, but again, what I'm saying is, if you're waiting, if you're mad because you're waiting for Hodinkee and Fratello watches, and the watches, watches TV and whatever to tell you a watch is cool, to tell you it's cool before you make your move, and you're complaining about the price shooting up, sorry, I don't expect any pity from me.
Yeah, don't like you said before. Don't let Hodinkee tell you what's cool.
Exactly. Now they can tell you what's legit, but and again, there are different levels of vintage. You've got vintage that's pristine, new old condition.
Mm-hmm. New old stock.
New old stock condition. And that's going to get the premium.
Yeah.
And you're going to find a lot of other stuff out there that's not new original, new old stock, and that's been used and that's repaired, and will differ a little bit from the NOS one.
Which I think is what happened in my 1505. Like it's been serviced, but it looks pretty mint for for what it is.
Yeah, but if you look at the one Hodinkee is selling brand new, not brand new, but on there that they verified and vouched for, et cetera, for thousands of dollars, and you love the watch, and you go on eBay and find like similar one for like $350, chances are it's not going to be in the same condition as the Hodinkee one would be. But if the fact that the secondhand's been changed out and that the might be an aftermarket crystal, if that doesn't deter you, then you basically, if you're going to buy that watch to wear it and enjoy it, then that's actually one of the best parts about vintage horology right there.
Yeah. Like, my 1505 is, I'm still honeymooning with it, but I've worn it almost every day. and and I'm pretty sure the hands are original. I feel like, because I can tell like there's they're kind of baked a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like they're not like perfect. They're of course the stick hands or whatever, but you can kind of tell like they've gotten, I guess, patina a little bit on them. The dowel, though, I'm not sure. The dowel looks like it's still fairly mint. So I don't know if that's been changed or what. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But let's see. Orange Hand is saying the guys do a better job at Fratello on vintage coverage than Hodinkee. They do a Throwback Thursday article on different watch every week on often less known brands. That's one place I got to look more at is Fratello.
Yeah. And of course, a watch sold by those two guys will be more because it's basically, it's under their umbrella. They're vouching for it. They're putting their reputations on the line for it.
Yeah. And the same with Hodinkee too, but Hodinkee's just going to be way overpriced, right?
Well, I don't know if Fratello is giving away watches.
Yeah. Man.
And like I said, so yeah, like, and again, Bulova, a lot of times people had a habit of, when the first war, about replacing them with Accutron components.
Mm-hmm.
Accutron components. It takes away from the from the resellability, I guess, but it doesn't take away from the resellability, but doesn't devalue the watch. It's still a great wearing, usable watch.
And going back on other higher end, like I was telling you about before, I think you and I had discussed a couple different times. I feel like would the first gen overseas be considered vintage?
Yeah, definitely.
And those I feel like if you want to get Vacheron, that would be a way to go. Instead of paying, $20,000 for a brand new one, you can pay what, five to six or so, somewhere around there right now for them.
So far, and it also depends, a little bit of a difference. I think the three-handers are going for a little bit more money than the chronographs because people have realized that they're a lot cheaper to maintain.
Uh-huh. And that 37 mil will actually work good too.
Yeah. Now, slightly smaller size, and the bracelet compared to the newer ones is lacking. I mean,
yeah,
when it's like,
you can tell it's the older bracelet.
Yeah, the bracelet doesn't look like bits of the doesn't have the Maltese cross design. It's more like an entry level Seiko.
Now, how about older AP? Is there any older AP that's still really relevant? I haven't really looked into it, but is there any, like, there's simple three-handers or whatever that are somewhat?
No, not really. I think that horse has got out the stable.
So they're all way too overpriced too, like them, and probably padded too.
Yeah, because if you find a good deal on one, it's probably really old, really in need of a service, and also tiny.
Or a Franken watch, probably.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. No, but yeah, the Vacherons, like I said before, I feel like those Vacherons are probably kind of sleepers. I have a feeling, sadly, those will probably eventually go up, wouldn't you say? Once more people find them.
Well, yeah, as more and more people find them, because you buy vintage from brick and mortar. That's where the deals are. Got to go old school and pit.
Yep. But what were you saying though, Clyve?
What was I saying?
We were talking about the VC, the overseas, as more people find it.
Yeah, more and more people will find it. Oh yeah, it used to be the second gen chronograph used to be the value point, because I think it used a module, and but it looked close enough to the third for a substantial discount on the secondary market. But those are demand is starting to catch up with those as well.
Yeah. Thomas Burnett, what's going on, Thomas? He's saying interesting chat, and he's eating dinner. You can't help think you can't go wrong with 50s to 70s Omega for quality vintage at reasonably affordable prices.
I think. Well, okay. I think I could. I think I could take that statement and I can subtract Omega and just say Swiss.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I mean, I need to start wearing those 50 Movado pieces, and those things are really immaculate looking. And Movado used to be one of those well-regarded brands. Like, Longines used to be sit a lot higher in the pecking order than it does now. Before it settled a little bit and became affordable.
Yeah, they used to be like one of the top 5 brands out there, didn't they? Back in the day.
Yep.
And what did they have? The Admiral, I think, series was a good one.
Yep. And a lot of complicated series. I mean, we're talking about picking. Like I said, I picked up a vintage Longines triple date calendar triple date moon phase for a few $100.
Okay, that's not bad. Not bad at all.
That's a hell of a lot of watch for the money.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, Longines, of course, Omega. I was starting to think, like I said, Vacheron, a lot of Vacheron. Trying to think of some other brands that you can buy. Like I said, Breitling. And of course, Breitling's good, like I mentioned earlier, for those that are worried about the smaller sizes. Breitling, as you mentioned, was always a little bit bigger because of being pilot's watch.
Yeah.
Now, what about some of the German brands?
Yeah, quality. It's like a lot of ways the German brands almost were like the Avis of the watch world. They had to try harder.
Uh-huh.
They had to work. The Swiss had the better reputation. They had to work twice as hard to get their crumb.
Yeah.
But any oversized mechanical chronograph.
Okay.
Vintage, especially Swiss.
Okay.
If you can find one of those for a good price, I think that's. And sometimes, God, I really need to pull up the camera and start doing a series about some of those.
Yeah.
And those ones, a lot of those ones with the Venus and the Valjoux movements in the Lemanias, we're talking like vertical clutch manual wind chronographs.
Nice. Got Howard Mayers in here. Hey, how you doing, Howard? He said he just bought a 2014 Mark II Omega reissue. Look at the vintage Mark II with a coaxial escapement, which I do like the old Mark IIs. But the thing is, I remember those things used to be cheap, and then now they're going crazy.
Well, then again, I remember getting Polar Explorers for like $3,500.
And then one other thing I was going to add in too.
I still like them at $1.99 Grand Slam at Denny's. Good luck finding that.
Yeah, I know, right? I remember the 5 for $5, the Arby's, the roast beef.
Yep.
They don't even have those anymore. But what I was going to say though, one thing which you got to look out because the high service cost. But what do you think about the Omega, the Speedy, the Reduced? Those are coming up on vintage too, aren't they? Like the Schumachers.
Yeah.
And they can still be had for what, like right around 1900 or so.
Yeah, true. And
you just gotta wonder about the service cost, though.
Exactly. Now, what's the movement in those again?
That I'm not sure. But I do know, like I've heard people say that it's a crazy, ridiculous service cost. It's probably almost as much as you pay for the watch.
Yeah.
But they are cool watches, though. I mean, I like, motorsports and cars and stuff like that, and they do have some pretty cool designs. And then Orange Hand's saying he just got it.
Racing dog.
Yeah.
You suck.
Need to get Orange Hand on the channel sometime. Do a collection review with him. If he'd be game. I don't know if he'd be game, Orange Hand, or not. He seems to have some pretty interesting pieces.
Yeah, because sometimes guys that are collectors that are just wide open. I mean, that are just open minded and just like it's just like, well, I can. That's a good. I can live with that price, and I like that watch. They might have some very esoteric collections. They may not have the very tight, collection rules and philosophies that other people have, but sometimes those guys have the most interesting collections out there.
Definitely. Anyways, we're going up on here in about an hour now. You about ready to call it a day?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just gonna come up here pretty quick and see what.
Because ID guys should be coming on here about another hour or so, I think, right?
Yep. I think these guys like watching everyone. It's like, see, I remember back being old enough, people would go on vacation and they would take movies, and then they'd come back, and then everyone else would get together and watch their home movies or flight shows, and that's what ID Guide Channel makes me think about, especially on the weekends. It's like watching your neighbors, or in some cases your own home movies.
Urban Country saying IE 6 identical Pateks. You see what I've been doing in the comments lately, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to have 6 identical Pateks. Like I did super chatting that every once in a while.
6 unsellable Pateks.
But anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys for coming in, chiming in on the comments there, and I appreciate you for coming on, Clyve. Been pretty good chat. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and we will see you guys next time. I'll probably let me go ahead and hit the